Hello, I'm Katie Lloyd, Associate Dean for our full-time and evening MBA programs here at the Scheller College of Business. And to all of our women and allies who are joining us today, welcome. This is just one of our ways that we like to celebrate women in business at Scheller. There are a few things that I want you to know about me. First, I have been a part of the Scheller community for about 4 years now. But I've been in the industry for about almost on the better part about 3 decades. I love the transformational power of what an advanced education can do, especially for women. And I'm thrilled to talk to you about some of those benefits today. 7 years ago, I followed my own advice and headed back to graduate school for my doctoral degree in higher education management. And in addition to the thousands of female MBA candidates I've worked with and helped throughout the years, and seen them advance, I was able to experience firsthand what the power of opportunities that could be provided to you through advanced education. So, and then finally, the third piece of information that I wanted to share with you is that I am the proud mother of 2 children, one of whom is a daughter, and I am passionate about working to advance women in business with the hopes that each generation, especially hers, has more opportunities and fewer barriers in the future. So I wanted to share a few statistics with you about women in the workplace. If you joined our welcome on Tuesday, you heard me talk about, we really hoped that you would walk away from this experience having learned something. And so we hope that the next pieces of information that I'll share with you before we get to the panel might be something of interest and something that can excite you to learn more. So one of the things that the consulting company McKinsey, and I'll show the next slide to show you, yes. So McKinsey, the consulting organization, puts out an annual report about the workplace. And in the past couple of years, they've dedicated some specific white papers and reports to the advancement of women in business. And in 2018, they highlighted that despite 50% of the workplace being filled by women, only 1 in 5 women held C-suite positions. And it got even smaller when you looked at CEOs, which was about 5%. And so that statistic, when you consider that the research also finds that when women are occupying positions of leadership within organizations, it's good for business. And this statistic from McKinsey, 30% representation of women in leadership roles increases the net revenue for a company by 15%. So not only is it good business for organizations to have women in higher leadership positions, but it is also good for the economy because women have, when women earn more, they can bring more earning power to the economy. And 2 more key stats that I wanted to throw out, which is they're actually from Forte organization, which is an organization that seeks to empower women through professional development opportunities, education, corporate connections. And it's an organization with which Scheller's been a partner with for the past few years. But if women do pursue their MBA, over 5 years, they can experience on average about a 55 to 65% increase in their salary. And over a lifetime, that can equate to approximately $3 million or more in lifetime earnings, which is amazing when we think about ways that we can elevate women, specifically financially. So in thinking about other statistics that I wanted to share with you, it gets a little bit darker when we look at some of the trends in the wage gap. Even though we've been making progress over the past few years, COVID has set us back. And I'll talk about the impact of COVID in just a minute. But one thing that if you know anything about the gender wage gap or the pay wage gap, you know that typically on average, women make less than men. So the most recent statistic that I was able to find that on average, women make about 82 cents for every dollar that white men make. And unfortunately, when you look at the wage gap across ethnicities, it widens dramatically. So white women make on average about 80 cents, Black women make on average 82 cents, Native American women 60 cents, and Hispanic women 55 cents for every dollar that a white man makes. And part of the reason for this gender gap is women are more likely to take a break during their careers to accommodate flexibility with childcare, perhaps, or family care, or just the flexibility that they might want to have. But it would be easy to assume that this would explain all of the gap, but that is not the case. When you control for education and occupation and experience level, it cannot explain the gap entirely. And unfortunately, this points to bias in the workplace. Next slide is a hard number to swallow at $900,000. This is the average gap in lifetime earnings when comparing men and women, assuming a career that spans about 40 years, as well for men and women. And the $900,000 is just the gap in lifetime earnings. It does not take into consideration if you invest that money, what that investment could be. So it's really quite sobering when we think about all the financial implications that women have due to the wage gap and due to bias in the workplace. The next slide, I'm sure you've all heard of the glass ceiling. It's a well-known metaphor for the invisible barrier that women face when trying to move forward in the workplace and achieve senior leadership roles within organizations. I'm not sure you've heard, however, about the concrete ceiling or the concrete wall. And this is more of a barrier. While the glass ceiling is primarily identified as a women's issue, the concrete ceiling is primarily, unfortunately, a barrier for minorities. And the term refers to access is restricted not only at those upper levels, but also at the levels, median, middle management positions. The concrete wall, the symbolism is that it's denser, it's harder to see through, and it's not easily shattered. And so there's a lot of issues that not only women, but women of color especially are facing as they're trying to advance within organizations. And then there's one more concept that I wanted to talk about that you may or may not have heard of, and this is the broken rung. And so in addition to the glass ceiling and to the concrete wall or the concrete ceiling, there's this concept of the broken rung. And instead of seeing barriers as women advance later in their career, men more likely than women, actually about 62% of men are more likely to be promoted early in their careers as managers than to the 38% women. And not only is this preventing women from achieving that initial role, but it's limiting the opportunity for women to advance and to develop this pipeline of women to achieve greater achievement, greater recognition and opportunities within an organization at higher levels. Sheryl Sandberg and Rachel Thomas, through their research in the organization, the nonprofit Lean In, they talked about there should be no reason, there's no good reason why women should be experiencing these barriers at the initial rung of management. And they actually say the only reason is that it's bias. And I think when we think about what we can do, there's a number of things, but I did want to talk about COVID first. And we were making significant strides as women in the wage gap, in the gender wage gap for a number of years, but we've been set back by COVID. And one of the statistics I read was the past 6 years of gains have been eradicated in the past seven months, which is really scary. When you look at this slide, it talks about the recessions over the past several decades, and typically women have fared a little bit better with unemployment rates. But when you look at COVID and the impact of COVID, women have actually experienced unemployment rates about 3% higher than men. So right now, women are about 12.8% unemployed compared to men's 9.9%. unemployment rate. So there's long-term implications for this, and of course, there's a lot of reasons that have caused this. One, women work in different industries which have been hit more severely by COVID. There's the need perhaps to step out because of the childcare issues, and what's projected to happen is that more women will drop out of the workforce permanently. Women in career positions may miss out on the opportunity to advance. They may be off track because of needs that they have to fulfill at home. So if this makes you angry, I know COVID's been really hard, but to think about the long-term progress that we made as women to be eradicated over the past few years, it's really disappointing. And so when I think about what we can do and what we can do now, we can take charge of our own destinies. And now more than ever, it's really important to invest in ourselves. And so when we emerge on the other side of this pandemic, we'll be well positioned to move forward. And I think that not only will we be well positioned to move forward, but we'll be positioned to help others. So for women, I think connecting, leveraging our relational strengths is important. It's important more now than ever. We need to advocate for ourselves. That includes maybe not taking on those low visibility, high administrative roles. It means knowing your value and your worth, and being able to communicate that value and that worth. Early in my career, I attended a conference for women, and the keynote speaker asked the audience what the number one reason was that women did not receive salary increases. And I was surprised to learn that it was because they didn't ask. And that stuck with me my entire career. And I do think we want to be sensitive right now and not tone deaf to what's going on within the business world. But if your organization is in a position to be rewarding you financially at this point, then think about ways that you can communicate your value. And there's a couple of great resources to help you do this. One is there's a podcast, Women at Work. There's also sites like Glassdoor, and then also just asking your peers and mentors. And then speaking of peers and mentors, I think that it's now more than ever to, whether we're an ally or being able to mentor or sponsor someone who doesn't look like us, to step up and do that, because they may not have that representation who can be their ally or be their advocate. And then finally, education. We talked about Forte, podcast, Women at Work, white papers through McKinsey & Company, and then also just thinking about your MBA and your MBA from Scheller College of Business. So I wanted to go briefly over what an MBA can do for you. There are several things. We talked about the importance of connections. An MBA can help you build those connections. It can help you build your confidence and credibility. It can help you establish and increase your knowledge and expertise to expand your opportunities and increase your likelihood of professional success and financial security. And then my final slide before we go to the panel is I wanted to talk about some of the great things at Scheller. First, which I don't have her picture here, but our highest ranking administrator within the College of Business is Dean Mary Malavi. We're very proud to have her in that leadership role. For each of the past 3 years, we've enrolled over 100 women across our 3 MBA programs. 33% of our most recent incoming full-time MBA program class, 41% of our evening incoming class, and 43% of our executive MBA program were women. And so we're very proud to have that representation. I think women are doing a great job in leading the school in the student organizations, as well as about 3/4 of the top leadership positions at Scheller are held by women. And then we also have lots of opportunities through partnerships with organizations like the Forte Foundation and Women in Technology. And then we also have our Women of Influence and our Women in Business organizations that are student run. So there's a lot of great things that are happening at Scheller. And I just want to say one more thing about Scheller is that we have a lot of great, smart women who come to Scheller. They're collaborative. But you don't need to, and it may be a misnomer that you think you have to have experience in technology or be thinking about going into a field in technology. And that is not the case. We welcome women from such diverse backgrounds, and we prepare you well to go into those fields without any type of background, if you so desire. But you also do not have to pursue that if you'd like. But anyhow, I will let our panelists talk about their experiences. Yes, we have a great panel today. I'm going to have them, one, introduce themselves. We'll go alphabetically, and a little bit about where they came before the program, what they did in the program as far as what they studied. If they want to talk about their undergraduate experience, really anything to let us know a little bit about you. So we'll have Christy go first, and then I have a few questions prepared. But if we're also going to welcome questions from the audience as well. So Christy, I'll pass it off to you.
Great. Thanks, Katie. Hey, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Christy Barker. So currently I serve as the Vice President of Marketing for a group called My Orthos. We're a startup orthodontic services organization based in the Northeast. And I did my executive MBA with Scheller, graduated in 2019. I did management of technology. And part of the reason I did that is my background has always been in the technology side of marketing. So my first job out of undergrad, which was also at Tech, so double jacket, was with a digital marketing agency. So I've always been really interested in the intersection of marketing, technology, and then with the healthcare component added on. So prior to doing my executive MBA with Scheller, I was with another group services organization for healthcare in the role as director of marketing. So after getting my MBA, I did get a really nice increase in growth in my career with this new organization. So excited to be here and share more about that with you today.
Hi, thank you, Christy. Hey, my name is Madhvi Dugasani, and I have 25 years of technology industry experience. And my bachelor's is from India, electrical engineering, and I have a master's in computer science before I did my executive MBA at Tech, and I graduated in 2017 from Management of Technology program. And I have been with Equifax for almost 15 years. And after my graduation, I switched roles to another department within Equifax, and we can talk about it as you guys may have questions related to that later. And I'll turn it over to Jasmine.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. So pleased to be here with this great panel and see all my lovely old admissions friends. My name is Jasmine Howard, and I am a 2020, so May 2020 graduate of the full-time program at Scheller, which means I graduated right here in this room, which is now where I work as a marketing manager at MailChimp, which is based here in Atlanta, but is currently based here in this room as well. So prior to coming to Scheller, I had about 6 years of experience in marketing, kind of communications and creative project management in a variety of industries, mostly healthcare, higher education, and media and entertainment. And while I really enjoyed my roles and my previous experience, I wasn't getting to make a lot of decisions based on kind of data and the best use of current technology. So that's what really drove my journey into Scheller and my slight pivot into technology. I wanted to come to Georgia Tech, really hone those technical skills, build a foundation to make strategic decisions grounded in data, and also do a lot of kind of the leadership development and polishing that comes with any MBA experience. So happy to be a success story that I intended to go into MarTech or ad tech, and that's exactly where I've landed. And just as much as I miss it, I'm happy to be a Scheller alumna now.
Very awesome. So I'll close this out. So my name is Courtney Jana. I am a current evening MBA student. I started last fall and I'm on track to graduate next fall. So really excited about that. Because I am still in the program, I guess I'll give a little bit more of how I ended up here. So I went to Vanderbilt undergrad and I studied women and gender studies and sociology. So these are topics near and dear to my heart, women in the workplace. And I currently work in real estate finance, but I knew even though I've been progressing in my role and progressing at my current company, I knew I wanted so much more. And at the same time, I have that background necessarily to go into the roles I wanted to see myself in. So I decided what better place to go than Georgia Tech. And I currently am here. Have concentrations in marketing and leadership and collaboration. So I'm really excited to see where the rest of this journey takes me, even though I've already gotten so much value from it, even though I'm only halfway done with the program. So really excited to be here and answer some questions.
So much to our awesome panelists for kicking it off. I appreciate the backgrounds you provided. And I wanted to start, I talked a lot about educating and advocating. What type of advice would you give women who may be thinking about an MBA and what the value was specifically for you and why they should think about pursuing this? Why don't I start with, let's go alphabetically again, and then if anyone has any specific questions, I'll redirect them to that. So Christy, why don't you kick us off?
So for me, and it is a decision I went back and forth with for a long time. For me, it was the next logical step to advance in my career. And I talked to a lot of women that I respected in leadership positions before deciding to get my MBA. And one thing they said to me that really resonated with me is it's a signal to other people that you're really serious about what you're doing. And a lot of times I think as women, we may not always be taken as seriously in a boardroom or in a room with a lot of senior male leaders. So for me, that was really a big selling point, was just being taken more seriously in the workplace and the opportunity to expand my network and kind of expand my strategic thinking.
So this is Madhvi. For me, it's so I used to so in a conference room, let's say I would be like one or two females, and rest of the group would be all male in technology related meetings and stuff like that. And then I would be very shy and come out and talk about, I just make the point and not expand on it and things like that. So what MBA provided me was that courage to like give me the breadth of experience or exposure to basically express myself in a way that makes sense for other people, as well as like Christy said, be taken seriously when you're in the middle of this group of people, and what you're saying they would pay attention to, in that kind of, like have a seat at the table sort of thing. So that's what it provided me with. Okay, so that from that perspective, that's what I needed to get ahead in my career, and kind of like not fully shatter the glass ceiling, but kind of like make my way up sort of way. So thank you.
Yeah, I definitely kind of align with what Christy and Madhvi were saying, and unfortunately resonated a lot with what Katie went over in the beginning of the presentation in regards to women not asking for maybe what they're worth or advocating for themselves to move up that ladder. And that's definitely where I felt myself early in my career, kind of stagnating and working in a function that was pretty saturated. So not only did the MBA help me kind of differentiate the way Christy was talking about, it also gave me access to the Jones MBA Career Center, which the full-time and evening programs have access to. The executive MBA program has their own very excellent career coaching and one-on-one attention there. But they really helped me understand the broad picture of different roles that I could be interested in, different companies, different industries, and what those pay bands looked like and how much of a jump I could make. So I didn't know if it was going to be possible to kind of, in my mind, get back on track with my career. That's what I was kind of hoping for, but never wrote down and never really said out loud to anyone. But I was able with the MBA to make the case, kind of jump in my career banding a little bit to double my salary where I was pre-MBA and get to that manager level and on that track for future roles. Or to Courtney.
Yeah, so just to echo basically what everyone else has said, but I guess I'll give a little bit from my perspective. I am a tad younger than the traditional MBA candidate, just calling that out right there. So something that I was really looking for was just purpose and direction. I knew there were topics that I like to talk about. There were things that, okay, I like doing a little bit more of this in the workplace, but I felt like I didn't necessarily have all the skills in my tool belt to actually pursue these things as a career. It's just something I like to do. So what attracted me and the value that I'm getting currently from an MBA is just direction. There are so many things that I didn't even know existed in the world of business, and now I'm able to actually put them in practice in the classroom, which as an adult, unfortunately, you don't get a lot of opportunities to do. So that's the biggest thing for me. It's giving me direction and just also a sense of confidence that I don't think I could have gotten just through the regular workplace, simply because I'm constantly being put outside of my comfort zone, working with new people, new projects. So that to me has been like probably the most valuable thing I've gotten from this entire experience, is just feeling grounded in who I am as a professional and what I have to say.
Noticed a common thread with you all and your responses about the confidence building aspect of it. And one thing I didn't talk about at length, or maybe veiled references a bit in the intro, but the confidence can really be supplemented by the experiences that our career team and our career offices are providing for you. So I was hoping that we could talk with each of you about how you gained support, or how you utilized the career support team members that you had access to. So why don't we start with Jasmine first, and then we'll go to Courtney. And I know you're midstream in the program, and then we'll end up with our executive alums. So Jasmine, if you want to kick us off, that would be great.
Yeah, I'm always happy to brag on them. The Career Center is definitely one of the top 3 reasons why I chose Georgia Tech. We don't like to say placement rates because that doesn't do justice to the relationship kind of aspect of how their coaching works, but their placement rates are incredible, and we're routinely recognized at a global level for the Career Center. So my partner in crime, or not in crime, in success, is Lauren Porter. She became a coach, a mentor, someone I would just go hang out and talk to. And I know it's very different for full-time because we're literally like at school full-time, and I would just go linger in career services and talk to them. But even though Lauren was my direct advocate and the person who was really getting to know me on a personal level so that she could kind of drill me in mock interviews, make sure I was prepared, kind of raise my name to certain employers that she thought would be a good fit, I could also access any of the rest of the career services staff, which I think is very unique to Scheller. So what's really cool is that we have a whole staff of career advisors, but they also wear another hat as corporate relations managers. So yes, there's a list, of students affiliated with each advisor, but they also have an account. This is what happens when you eat almond M&Ms as an energy boost before panel, the nuts and chocolate. Anyway, they have lots of accounts that they manage. So they're plugged into different industries, and say that I was interviewing with Delta. That's not Lauren's account, that's Kevin's account. I could still go talk to Kevin and make sure that I was as fully prepared as possible for those recruiting activities. So, and he knew enough about me through Lauren because they meet on a weekly basis and talk about all of us. So it really is that hands-on attention and dual nature of the staff there that helps elevate everyone. I'm going to get more water now.
So because I'm halfway through my program, I will say I'm not towards the end just yet where it's like, okay, I'm ready to, break into this new career path. But I do know something that has always stuck with me from the very first day when I came to Scheller is just how accessible everyone is in that office, and how, like Jasmine just shared, they're incredibly hands-on and they're just ready to see you succeed. And to me, one of the most valuable things is having an advocate like that in doors that I previously probably could not have opened myself, for no matter how hard I tried, I still was not getting in front of the people I wanted to get in front of. To me, is one of the main reasons that also attracted me to Scheller, to know that, okay, when I'm ready, because for me, it's going to be a major career pivot at the end of my program. Even though I love my current company, I know I don't want to stay there, and I know I don't want to stay in that that role. So I'm kind of working myself up for it. Probably next semester, definitely like, okay, time to get down to business. But from the very first day, they've just been so accessible and so kind, like literally the nicest people in the world, to make that process so much easier, because it is very nerve-wracking at first when you're trying to break into something new, as everyone probably knows.
So I'll echo what everyone else says about the career team being just very kind, very accessible. And when I started at Scheller, I didn't necessarily have the intent of changing jobs. I wanted to do this to really grow my skill set and set myself up for future advancement. But I didn't go into it thinking, okay, I'm gonna change careers after I graduate. But through a lot of conversations with Cynthia, who was my career advisor, I was able to really get clearer on what I wanted to do and what kind of role I was looking for. And so when opportunities started to come up, I would be able to just go and talk through them with her. And she was also a huge help to me in updating my resume, which is always a challenge. So.
Yeah, I agree with Christy and what others said. Actually, Cynthia, right after my graduation, she helped me get into a program. I think there are few individuals that they would be able to support. Georgia Tech is able to support through this mentoring program. So she was able to help me go through mentoring session with and for my resume building. And when I joined the program, I was fully intent on either changing my jobs or start looking at a startup sort of ideas to do it. But it is on my initiative that I need to take initiative to look outside and search outside in order to even grow further in my career. So that's what I'm trying to work on. Fortunately, at the workplace that I'm at right now, we are going through major transformation on technology side, and I wanted to get that exposure. So that's why I stayed back. But if with the experience that Scheller provided me, I'm sure if I go look outside that there are better opportunities out there that I could take advantage of. And I strongly believe that. Back to you, Katie.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Those are great answers. I wanted to switch it now to the academic experience. An academic experience, and Courtney, you can talk about what you've experienced so far that you feel like has really helped you either secure that next job or that was pivotal in building your confidence. Yeah, I just throw it out to you all, and let's talk about the academic experience. Why don't we start with Christy this time, and then we'll go backwards, or we'll go through the group alphabetically again.
Great. So there were really two big things that stood out to me academically. So with management of technology, you have a capstone project where you start by doing a lot of customer discovery, and over the course of a few semesters, you basically build a startup and get it ready to launch and go to market and go through all the ups and downs that go with that. And your final presentation is to some folks in capitalist world, friends of the professor. So you're presenting in front of people that do this all day, every day for a living, which was quite nerve-wracking, but also really impactful for my career and helping me get better at that side of things and kind of thinking on my toes. In advance of that final presentation, you're presenting to your peers every week in a relentlessly direct environment. So you're getting feedback from them. They're being honest with you about what works and what doesn't work. And for me, that was really helpful, not only in preparing me for my career, but helping me develop a little bit of a thicker skin with feedback. So that was very impactful. And then we also did a project around valuing a startup. So kind of the other side, where we're on the venture capitalist side and we're evaluating a couple of startup opportunities. And going into this program, my finance skills were probably some of my weaker skills. So this really helped me learn how investors and how people that are more financially minded kind of think about things. And that was always something that I felt like kept me from having a little bit of a seat at the table. So through those two projects, I feel like I can now talk to our investors and I can have these conversations and feel like I have an equal seat at the table with them.
So for me, yes, the capstone project definitely, and there are a couple of courses out there. If you are actually initially, I thought, okay, I'll go with global business because I have been in the technology industry for a while. Probably it was time for me to pivot and all that. But based on the work experience that I had, the advisor at the time said probably management of technology makes more sense more than GB because of the female population out there in technology industry. Right, comparatively, it's very small. So from that advice that I stayed with the program for MOT, not switched to GB. What I liked about management of technology program is that get towards the startup mentality that trains you to if you really want to go out there and do something by yourself, that trains you take it, and the feedback that you would get also you would learn to take it not take it personally but be able to use it in a productive way is what I learned from there, as well as there were data and analytics courses that are actually helping me in my new role at Equifax. So that, and there are several courses that I could list out like that, and the projects that we worked on also is pretty good. So, Jasmine, over to you.
Thank you. I've recovered from the peanut M&M or almond M&M attack of 2020. There are two things I want to highlight from the academic side of things. One of my favorite projects, and the project that I believe helped me secure my internship, so the summer in between the 2 years as a full-time student, was the international practicum. So while the executive program has the capstone, the full-time and evening programs have what we call practicum courses, where you are working hands-on with a real client in real life with real deliverables throughout the semester. And the international one is where you work with someone in another country and get to go visit them. So I chose the Israel project, which is offered at least every other year, more recently every year, with one of our alums, because he has great connections to what is the Silicon Valley of that part of the world. I chose that group because I knew, okay, I want to work in technology, but I don't really have a background in that. I can get this almost internship experience during the school year to then leverage in my actual internship interviews and say, yes, I have developed a go-to-market strategy. Yes, I have done competitive analysis of how we might want to position a product. So had a great time, worked with a company called Player Maker, which makes this device that attaches to like a soccer cleat, or what they call a boot, apparently. Anyway, so it's cool tech product, and got really hands-on there. The second thing I want to highlight is just the very applied nature of a lot of Scheller's classes. I was interested, as I alluded to earlier, in business analytics, and that is something where you definitely have to do it to learn it. Not necessarily a theoretical thing, though there are lots of math theories involved, but you are given real data sets, sometimes again with real clients, other times that your professor might be working on in research. So it's all real data, which means it's messy data that you have to clean. But that gave me the confidence to kind of tackle any data-based marketing issue kind of with a scrappy set of tools. So you don't need to have these very fancy certifications in SaaS or these other expensive products. Like, we use open source tools, we use very affordable tools during the school year, which is important when you become a student again. And now it's given me the confidence that in my new role, I just got off a call right before this where I was in the campaign reporting meeting because everyone's treating me like marketing analytics despite me having no actual experience in that. So, and that's just all of Scheller's doing. So I was equipped with the skill set I needed to, again, be confident, but just be able to use data to make recommendations from start to finish to hand off to the CMO tomorrow. So without the Scheller experience, I don't think I could have said I would be doing that 2 years ago. Off to Courtney again.
Yes, I'm actually going to echo what Jasmine said. So one of my favorite things about literally probably every course that I've taken so far at Scheller is just how interactive and hands-on it is. Even topics where I'm like, okay, like this is cool, but like I'm probably never going to use this. I'll never see this again. I'm not interested in it. The professors, they still take so much time to give us real world examples of like, okay, let's put it to work. And it forces you to think through the problems and think what topics are actually being presented to me, as opposed to just, busy work studying. Instead, it's like, all right, it's a test of my skills. So I really love how interactive everything has been, even for courses that it may not be in my career path for me, but I still feel like I have a couple, tools in my toolkit that I can bring out in the future if it ever was necessary. I would say one of my favorite projects that has stood out to me, because it kind of took me by surprise, is over the summer, I took a digital marketing class and I was like, okay, we're going to learn about some stuff. But it actually ended up being a class where we worked with a real company. And that was one of the first times that I did that at Scheller, because typically you hear about it as a part of the practicum. And so when the professor was explaining it to me, I was like, oh, this is real, like real stuff. So we were working with a company out in California, a startup company, and just helping them develop their digital marketing strategy. And to me, that was one of the most, I would say, I don't say life-changing, but one of the most life-changing experiences I've had at Scheller, simply because it was something that I didn't think I was prepared for, something I felt like, okay, I don't really know if this is in my wheelhouse. Maybe I should wait a little bit longer to take this class. But I was pushed to limits that I didn't think that I had necessarily, because I was a little bit earlier on in my career. And I think that truly is because all of the other courses I had taken up to that one prepared me for that moment to be in front of a client that, because I work with clients in my current job, but not in that same capacity. So yeah, just really hands-on, really interactive, and it's relevant too. It's not just busy work. Like I said, the professors are thinking of real cases that apply to the real world every day, and how the technology industry is just digitally transforming.
And I'm always inspired when I hear from our current students and alums. And one of the things that we talk about openly at Scheller is the imposter syndrome, because I think we all suffer from that in a number of different ways. And I think when you start an MBA program, you can be awed by your classmates and their experiences. But I just want you all to know that really we assume that you don't have any expertise in technology. We can provide you with that foundation. We don't assume that you have a business background. You can have any type of background coming into the program. And I do think that the program sets you up through these experiential opportunities, through the career services, through the other academic experiences that you have, and the leadership opportunities to really make transform yourself and fill in these gaps that you personally want to address. But it's always a double-edged sword, because you all are so awesome on the panel, but then I also feel like our incoming students may be a little bit afraid that they can't hold a candle to you all. But I appreciate you all talking about how you didn't necessarily have those experiences when you started too. So in thinking, about some of the words that you all have shared, advocacy or advocate and mentor, or some of those that came up in the past couple of questions and responses. And so I was hoping that maybe you could give some advice or some insight into mentoring that has benefited you, or sponsorship that has benefited you, or advice for students who may be, or prospective students who may be seeking mentorship or sponsorship. Why don't we start with Courtney, and then we'll go to Jasmine, and then Davi, and then Christy.
Yeah, so I guess one of the biggest pieces of advice that I would give, because it was given to me, is simply do not be afraid to ask, someone that speaks in class, a professor, even a classmate, whatever it is. Do not be afraid to ask them, like, hey, would you mind going to grab a cup of coffee with me? I really want to pick your brain about XYZ. Because I know sometimes that can be a little bit intimidating, and you're like, oh, I don't want to bother anybody. But I feel like a lot of those conversations have given me so much perspective into who I am as a person. What do I want to do? What do I want my career to look like? So don't be afraid to just ask, because you'd be so surprised how many people are kind of going through the same thing just as you are, or have been through it, and just wish that they had somebody also to chat with. So just ask, reach out, no matter who it might be.
Yeah, definitely what Courtney said, you just have to start. I think I always would feel intimidated by how formal mentorship can sound, or sponsorship. And I always have this image of like going to somebody's office and being like, will you be my mentor? And in some organizations, it's apparently like that, but I've never worked in one of those. So you definitely, I feel like it's like my advice for networking is just to go into any event or scenario with the goal of making one new friend. And like maybe that new friend is just there to get you through a possibly uncomfortable whatever networking event, you know how they can be, but at least you've got somebody to talk to. Or maybe that new person that you meet, you can help each other later on. And I think that's the tricky thing is it's very hard to tell quickly who can be a really great mentor or sponsor for you. And it's much easier to find people who you really respect and trust and build that relationship to then when they could become your mentor or sponsor later on. Like earlier this week, I set time to meet with a director in my company, and I was asking him, like I scheduled it to ask about a very tactical thing and get his feedback on a report I produce. But it became very clear that he's viewing my meetings with him as like coaching time. And that's because he does have an MBA background as well. And I think he wants to pay his experience forward. And so in my mind, I was like, oh, I need to take advantage of this and formalize it and really capitalize on someone who's higher up in the company who has really great experience, who's willing to give me that time and attention apart from, our direct work product at hand. So it's everything what's the phrase about like luck is just preparation meets opportunity? Like that's what it is. You have to be prepared to take advantage of the positions the MBA program will put you in, make the most of those opportunities when you connect with someone you really have a spark with or someone who is willing to go to bat for you. Over to Madavi.
Thank you, Jasmine. Yeah, networking, I think the MBA program, kind of like pushes you or enables you to network with other peers that you may not have or you would not have exposure to otherwise. And they bring in so many guest speakers, and they have these learning sessions and opportunities where if you are interested with being have a like connection with them, that you are free to go ask them, or at the end of the program you could always ask them. And mentor and mentee relationships, actually they are mutually beneficial. Other person can also learn from you when you are part of that program, is what I learned or feedback that I received when I went and approached a couple of people. So I think we definitely, if you are new to that, you would be kind of like hesitant and to go and ask people, but keep in mind that you are also going to provide value for them in that relationship. So I think that's what made me not be so afraid to go approach people and ask for if I needed some advice and that sort of thing. So over to you, Christy.
Thanks, Madavi. So I will echo what everyone else said about just jumping right in. For me, one of the most valuable parts of this program was the peer network that I gained. I always joke, best friends I ever bought, which is not true, but a little bit. Like I am still very good friends with many of these people now, and I know they'll be lifelong friends. So I think just as important as the academic side is really making an effort to get to know everybody in your program. Everyone has something that they can offer you, something they can teach you. So just spending the time doing that, and even the time outside of the classroom of just hanging out, getting to know them, that was a really, really valuable part for me. And we all still use that network now for career opportunities, bouncing ideas off of each other. It's just a really, really powerful network that you get with the Scheller program.
From our audience, and that is, have you had any clashes with male colleagues in the MBA program, professors or supervisors? Did you feel supported by the program in navigating those conflicts, or do you feel like Scheller helped you prepare for navigating those potential conflicts with male coworkers or supervisors in the workplace? So I'm not going to presume anyone had or didn't have these issues. So I see Courtney popped up. Courtney, if you want to take that, and then if anybody else wants to speak, just turn your camera on and we'll go to you next.
Yeah, so I don't think that I've had any clashes, but that is not to say that those clashes do not exist in any way, shape, or form. I think I've just contact with good people who have the best in mind. And I would say that is something that I was worried about prior to starting the program of like, okay, I'm a woman. I know I'm a minority woman at that. I'm a little bit younger. Am I going to be treated differently in the classroom? You know, am I just going to be looked down upon? But I have not had any of those experiences at all. If anything, I felt like a lot of my classmates or even professors kind of challenge us to do a little bit more. And I'm like, oh, okay, like you're advocating for me, you're supporting me in these areas. And I feel like if hypothetically, God forbid, something did happen where I did feel like, okay, that wasn't cool or anything like that, I feel like this is a community that would support me if it was something to call it out. And something in particular that I'm currently taking a course actually offered through the management school. It's like gender, ethnicity, and race and organizational theory, something of that nature. I might have that title a little bit messed up. But the professor, just the content that we talk about is relevant in today's climate of issues like that. And I feel like not only is it bringing that light to students that may not have to think about that, so male students in particular, they don't have to worry about those things usually, but it's also giving me the tools of how to call it out and how to change company culture where you might be working someplace like that. So luckily no issues, but I do feel like I would be supported and that I'm getting tools to carry it beyond my time at Scheller too, so in the workplace.
I will, in respect for your very real question, I will have a very real answer. I will say one of the things that I love about Scheller is that a lot of organizations right now are claiming or saying that they are tackling issues of diversity, inclusion, and equity. And Scheller has been doing that for a while. And with student leaders kind of at the helm and at the front and advising leadership and staff and the staff members that you see here. And that's something I really love about it. That being said, when you have student club meetings, you're going to have some tense moments. It's not necessarily clashes or feelings of necessarily overt sexism. Like to Courtney's point, there's nothing like abysmal going on. It's just all that routine stuff that has been brought to the front in terms of just the micro things that come up with Me Too or kind of racial justice issues that we're talking about them, and that makes for real conversations. But the benefit is we have the type of community at Scheller to where we're all in a room, and I had male classmates asking like, oh, I did this, was that odd or off-putting or offensive? And I can say like, yeah, it wasn't great. And they're actually receptive to that feedback and willing to change. So I think we do a great job with one of the very first things you do as a Scheller student is implicit bias training, and that kind of not necessarily levels the field, but it makes everyone feel very aware of issues that maybe we've had from our past and the cultures that we come from. We make sure that everyone's aware of differing backgrounds and how to be respectful and navigate conversations, so that when we do have those club meetings and those experiences, we can be real, but also be constructive. And there was a moment that got very tense. Last February, we had a racial equity discussion where we had like the dean was there, other staff members there, professors were there, and it is so refreshing to see participation from all levels of the organization in those very tense and stressful conversations. But I did feel like, and then I'll give Katie a shout out, she personally had my back when I was calling some people out. But that's how we're gonna have to move forward in this year, 2020 and beyond.
Thank you so much. I mean, we really do look to our, this is an educational experience, and we want students to feel safe, and we want to educate them on so many different concepts, from self-awareness and how to build communication skills, as well as the harder skills that you'll get in the classroom. And sometimes that's not always easy, right? And we have to work through those sticky points. But I do think that we do have the type of community that wants to embrace the learning moments. And so I do think that philosophical orientation does help. Okay, so we have a much lighter question about what is the dress code like, and do you feel pressure to be more formal, day after day in classes? So I'll just let you all, if you want to speak to this, just flip on your camera, and we'll have you all address it. Hey, Christy.
So that was also something that I was concerned about going into the program. So I will say that on presentation days, yes, you're dressed up, or if you have a guest speaker. Regular class days, so for us in the executive program, it was Friday evenings and then Saturday 8:30 to 5:30. So I guarantee you that every Saturday that I didn't have a presentation or guest speaker, I was wearing my leggings, and that was like my uniform for class. So it's definitely casual. There are times that you will need to dress up, but other times it can be very casual, or at least that was my experience. Hopefully no one was offended by me being in casual clothes.
I'll speak for the evening MBA programs, mostly because most professionals are coming through from work. A lot of people just wore whatever they wore to work. There was a wide variety of outfits. You would see some people in like a full suit and tie, and it's probably because they met with a client today at work. And I work for a software company, so we have a casual dress code. So I would just show up in jeans and a t-shirt. So I didn't feel pressured to dress any type of way necessarily. I think a lot of people just took on the common sense casual of, come with respect, be respectful to the professor, the other people around you, and you should be good to go unless, like Christy mentioned, it's like a presentation, a speaker or something like that.
And I love how everyone's wearing slippers these days. You can't tell, but everybody's wearing slippers these days. I bet if I was in Jasmine's awesome apartment right now, I would see that she's got some slippers on. I'll pass it.
Oh, I don't have shoes on at all. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is honestly, so I put this, just ladies delayed here. I had this black tank on earlier, but I've been mostly wearing a sweatshirt, my Georgia Tech sweatshirt actually today. But then right before this, I was like, oh, I'll go put on my sweater blazer and a necklace and lipstick. But it kind of feels like that. That's actually pretty apt picture of how dress code can be at Scheller, like for class and for things. You kind of wear whatever you want to wear. I feel like we're all like trying to look nice for the first few months, and then that just like falls off a cliff, especially when it gets hot. But I think we do have a culture that is very respectful, especially of guest speakers. So people tend to wear more business casual if we have guest speakers, which happens quite frequently in our classes because the professors are so well connected to industry. The Career Services Office will work with you and kind of educate you on the level of presentation they recommend for interviewing and for career events, and that is typically more of the traditional business professional. So if you are considering, and we hope you are, an MBA and coming soon, what I did, like I knew I was interested around this time period for the next year, I got a suit and some shoes and everything while they were on sale. So just like keep your eyes peeled because you will need it for certain events, but not necessarily the day-to-day at Scheller.
Really great practical advice. So we've spanned all the topics that we could have hit today. So I really appreciate our panelists' time. Thank you so much. We have wonderful, dedicated students and alumni. We appreciate seeing you back. And then I wanted to just say thank you to our attendees. We really are so glad that you spent the time with us today. If you weren't able to attend some of the prior sessions, I wanted to let you know that those will be available on our website. So just stay tuned. We'll be putting the recordings up there. And then just in closing, an MBA is an investment, one that's worth it. And I want you to, we all believe in this experience, and I believe that Scheller will truly empower you personally to help you achieve professional goals that you don't even know that you have. And we really look forward to working with you. And let us know if you have any questions. On the final slide, it will give you our email address. And our doors are always open in the proverbial sense these days. So please reach out to us with any questions. Thank you so much.